There is a radical new style of dance making itself felt in the metropolitan area, and it is fast becoming the major topic of discussion among dancers, critics, and audiences. It's called spontaneous dance, and the man behind this departure from contemporary dance is Jerome Lee. I'm speaking to Mr. Jerome Lee, who is one of the newest and most impressive and innovative dancers on the contemporary dance scene. I'm very glad to have this opportunity to speak to you, Mr. Lee.
Oh, call me Jerome.
Very well, Jerome. I would very much appreciate it if you could explain to us or identify for us what you consider to be your approach to dance. What do you call it? What does it mean to you?
I call it spontaneous dance. And it means a lot of things. It means basically doing it, getting out there and dancing. It's different from traditional dancing on the stage or on film in the theater.
It sounds like you're something of a free spirit, going your own way, and well, you don't encumber yourself with some of the traditional approaches that encumber other dancers.
Yeah, that's true. I don't feel that there's any need for being highly formal and institutionalized. What's important is to dance, I guess. And there are all sorts of ways to appreciate it and be appreciated that don't have to happen on the stage.
Jerome's childhood was a happy one. Much of it was spent on a lake resort his parents owned in the pine forests surrounding Detroit. With his two older brothers, Jerome would daily explore nature, his curiosity sometimes leading him deep into the woods. These home movies, shot by his parents, clearly show the beginnings of Jerome's dance style. To acknowledge being filmed, realize the potentials, and translate it into movement, into dance at such an early age was truly remarkable. I wonder if it's baffling to you to find all this attention being paid to what you've done so automatically and spontaneously, and now you are seeing it as dance yourself, and evidently it developed as something totally free of this kind of purpose to communicate or to be an art form. It's becoming an art form in your mind, I gather.
Oh, yes, it is. A few years ago, I would have been much more surprised, but I can see now that it is dance, and I do it now more purposefully than I used to.
Indeed, surprise is a key element in Jerome's style. His dances transform themselves and evolve from one to another with such rapidity and ease that inattentive viewers might find themselves lost by neglecting any portion of Jerome's dance. Here, Jerome has incorporated into his dance of the Sunday jogger a photographer motif to produce a hybrid of his original dance. This flexibility of style and the highly improvisational character of his dance marks it as distinct from the works of his contemporaries. Indeed, this break from the norm may signal a whole new generation of dancers.
Well, I think the thing that impresses me so much about Jerome Lee is the simplicity of design. He's a master of understatement. Here's a dancer who's taking the movements of the common man, such as jogging or riding an escalator, and heightening them through the art of dance. There's a simultaneous appeal to the businessman or the dance critic. Unfortunately, some of my colleagues have not yet taken the time to appreciate just what's happening with Jerome Lee. They haven't let the weight of his dance fall. But here we have a revolution in dance that's as fundamental as the early days of Martha Graham, as fundamental as the movements of Jerome Robbins or George Balanchine. Jerome Lee is certainly a new force in dance.
I must say that as one who has seen a small sample of what you do, it can be very exciting, and I'm not sure to what extent you yourself are aware of what it is you're doing or what your reasons are for doing it or what impact it has on the rest of us. It's powerful because I get the feeling that you are
portraying man as the microcosm of his universe, and that he is seen as the nexus of interjecting parts of a conflicting form of energy that is only expressed and being resolved itself through your dance.
Yeah. I don't know what that means, but I'm sure that's true.
Nowhere does this idea of man as microcosm, man as the nexus, the link between existing conflicting energies, become more apparent than in Jerome's escalator dance. The movement and flow of people, the embodiment of energies, express themselves and are defined by the simple act of traveling on an escalator. Indeed, the entire concept of travel as an end in itself is superbly commented on in this simple yet elegant performance. The escalator dance captures the yin-yang nature of modern life in one powerful statement. Its simplicity is in itself a testimony to Jerome's genius.
The escalator dance is a relatively new one, and I think it's probably built up from past experiences with things. In the escalator dance, I don't do anything any different from what anybody else does.
The ordinary person on an escalator is doing something very much like what you do. Would it be distinguishable in any way?
No, not visually.
Then in what way can we say that yours is art? Perhaps when I ride an escalator, I'm performing the escalator dance without knowing it.
Yes, perhaps you are, but I don't think you are.
Oh?
But I'll give you credit for the possibility. As far as I know, I'm the only one who's been doing that dance.
Are you content with the idea that the scope of your work might be called minimal? It's not something that has the vast scope of drama and the culmination in a climax that is the ultimate result of a long preparation on the part of the performer and the audience for the climax?
Well, you could call it minimal
Mm-hmm.
in the terms of traditional dance or what people expect art to be, but that would be misleading, I think, and it's not the point.
To communicate is the goal of every dancer, and as a kinetic dancer, Jerome displays a subtlety of movement and an intensity of form that reveals patient hours of practice.
Critically speaking, I guess it's got great form for fine. Dancing-wise, I've seen better. It's looks like something Picasso could have turned out a lot better. In terms, it's.
What would be another example of one of the dances that you do and the kind of inspiration that events have given you?
Well, it can be simply anything. I might be inspired by a street lamp. And if I'm struck by the thing being too vertical, I might just lie down flat. And that's a kind of response. I've never done that, actually. I just thought of that now.
Of course, the improvisational element of your work is highly improvisational, and the improvisational element seems to suggest almost that you can follow any feeling you have. Anybody can do it. Is it that anybody can do it, and anybody just following any impulse they have are doing something that's called spontaneous dance, which is art?
Well, no, I don't think anybody can do it because anybody doesn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
I do it, and maybe a few other people do it, but most people act differently, and I don't think they're spontaneous dancers.
Well, what do you think?
Well, as far as dance goes, for me, dance is something that you sort of imprint and remember, and I would call this more improvisational acting than dance, but it's certainly interesting, and he uses his environment. I don't think it would have wide audience appeal. I think this kind of thing is a very personal sort of form of creativity. He's enjoying himself, and I think that's what counts.